Yay!
Hi.
Hello.
Hi, Katya. Hi to
Hi,
everyone.
Ellie.
I
It's
was
been so long.
I was with some technological issues, but now it's good. Yeah, so nice to see you.
So nice to see you too.
How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. I have a very back-to-back day today, so I'm just in the flow, you know?
In the present moment.
Yeah.
Nice. So, hi to everyone that is here with us. Sorry if I was a bit for 2-3 minutes try to look everywhere to try to understand how to make Katya enter, but now we are set up.
We are
And
here.
and yeah, I will explain just briefly what we're doing here together, me and Katya today, for the one who maybe don't know. I was started actually a couple of weeks ago to do the first episode. This one with Katya is the second one of Dream Chasers. And actually, we're bringing here the story of Katya, and the idea of the episode is bringing for each episode a inspiring story of someone that have, despite the challenges, have followed their dreams and realized them. And the purpose of this is to give inspiration and motivation to all of us, to me as well, because actually I love, I really love to hold the space here, because I'm the first one that I'm so happy to hear these stories, and they give me so much power, and they really uplift me. So today we will be with Katya. I met her actually in a movement that's really funny life, because the movement where we met, me and Katya, it's really connect with dreams, because it was actually a movement where the idea is supporting each other to realize our purpose and our dreams in our life. And yeah, so I thought actually that because of the link that we have through that, and because I know her and she's a super powerful woman, that she went through a lot in her life, and she can give us a lot of nice insights. I thought it was nice to be here together to share with all of you.
Thank you, Ellie.
You're welcome, Katya. I don't know if you would like to share something or to say something before we start with the question. Feel totally free, of course.
Sure. I'm just happy to be here, and I always love meeting new audiences and getting to share my story. And I feel honored that you invited me to the second episode, and I love the name Dream Chasers. I think we do it's interesting. Like sometimes we're chasing and sometimes we're attracting, and it's a dance between those two things, but I think that I really am excited in the next year to share more of my story more openly with my community. And I think this is a really good first step. I think I talk a lot about my projects, and I talk a lot about, the work that I do in the world. And I'm happy to share a little, of course, like I'll share an introduction of myself if you want, and the work I do. But I don't often talk about the challenges that I have overcome, and the hardness and what, like all the things that happen along the way that you don't always give space to focus on, because you think nobody cares about that, like why do people want to hear about my challenges? But I think actually hearing about our challenges helps us to feel less alone and to stay motivated and believe that even if it's not easy all the time, it doesn't mean that we should give up on our dreams. um, and so, yeah, so I'm excited to talk to you more about it. And I can share a little bit about what I do in the world. This question of like, what do you do is one of those like painful questions for me as somebody who does a lot of different things. And I think that often is the case for people who didn't take a traditional path in life. I didn't decide to become a lawyer or become a doctor or, any of the things that my post-Soviet Belarusian parents really wanted me to do.
I think that's for most of, I think most of the people, they have the parents wanted to do something really traditional
Yeah.
and then we
You
take
know, because
another.
and I don't blame them. I don't blame them because my parents came to the US in their early 20s from a collapsing nation from the former Soviet Union. I was born 4 days after the Soviet Union collapsed, right? So how dramatic, like if I imagine myself in their shoes, I can't, anything that I've gone through, sometimes I diminish my own story because I think about what my parents went through and I feel like whatever I'm experiencing is like baby stuff in comparison to like having a child in your 20s and moving across the ocean to a country where you don't speak the language and believing that you can have a better life for your kids. My parents were dream chasers, so I inherited this from them. And even though they might have wanted me to pick a traditional life in America, I think deep down I inherited from them this rebellious spirit of like, I'm gonna do what I want in my way, and I'm going to not give up on my dream of having a different life than the life that I saw all around me in my town in New Jersey. I grew up in a very in a suburban town. I don't know if in Europe there's a lot of suburbia, maybe there is, but suburban in America is like little houses all that look the same, and
Yeah,
like
yeah,
everyone like stays in town and they get married and they have kids and the white picket fence and like that's the path. And I knew from my earliest childhood, like that is not my path. Um, and I've still been discovering what my greater path is. I can't always predict the future, but I can say that right now I'm really focused on creating companies and spaces where people can meet each other and learn each other's stories and share experiences together that they don't normally share. So I am an actor and I tell stories and I tell the stories of my community and my people of post-Soviet immigrants and Russian-speaking Jewish people and our unique story. That's what one thing I'm working on is my screenplay and my series and telling that story. The other work I do is with my company Inheritance Project, which helps people understand your inheritance, not like the money that you got from your parents or the things that you got from your grandmother, but what is your inherited culture? What are the stories that you inherited about yourself and other people? What are the inherited patterns that you carry, the behaviors, the way that you see the world? And then how does that shape the way that you show up and talk to others and show up at work and show up in relationships, and how does that affect the way that you fight and that you experience conflict, and making all of those invisible things that we're carrying, like this invisible backpack of all the stuff that we inherited, we take the backpack off and we open it and we unpack it, and so we can see, because when we can see what makes us who we are, then we can choose what legacy we want to leave and who we want to be, and we can repattern some of the really intense things that we've inherited, a lot of us, from our culture and upbringing, right? And maybe years of war or oppression or trauma. How do we not pass that on to the next 7 generations and be the cycle breakers, right? So I'm a cycle breaker. I help other people break the cycle. And then the other part of my work is designing interactive experiences. So that is through ecstatic dance, through circle singing, through making large scale productions. It always just depends on what's happening this year, what's coming right now. And I just listen and I respond with those experiences. And of course, I also am a poet and a singer, songwriter, and I really want to step in a new level of production with my songs, like produce my album and produce videos of my poems. And it's all kind of coming together in this world of thought leadership and being here to help people break free of their inherited conditioning and their inherited beliefs about who they are and what they're allowed or not allowed to be, and giving people the inspiration that you really get to choose that. And you, even if you're not responsible for what you inherited, like you can't choose, right? Your parent, I mean, there are people who believe you choose your parents, which I'm not going to say whether or not you do, but you don't, when you're a child, you're not you don't always have control over what you experienced and what you're carrying inside you. But as an adult, you have the responsibility to do something with that. So we are empowered. It is in our power to change whatever we want to change and become who we want to become. And that's sort of my my brief introduction of who I am.
Thank you for your sharing, Katya. It was really beautiful, and actually, it's we are really inspiring because I have to share something. Katya, she has so many projects, and every time she has a new dream, she's that kind of person that she doesn't just, okay, I have this dream. She step on it. She make it happen. She has a lot of power on that. So thank you for sharing about all your projects. That actually you share a part because I know that you have so much going on
I
and
left some
and
out.
happening. That I know that you have so many things that you have even more. and
Yeah.
and yeah, and thank you so much. And we can start with some question if you feel like.
Yeah.
Okay, so okay, how has your early life experience shapes your perspective on following your dreams? And did you always have a clear sense of what your dreams were from when you were little?
Mm. It's a great question. You know, when I was little, I knew exactly what I wanted to do. My parents, because we didn't have any money and we were poor immigrants, my parents they did have one camcorder, you know, like in the old days where it was like you held the camera and it was all recorded on these little tapes and
Yeah,
you could play the tapes back.
they would
So
just
they
put
had,
down the.
yeah. So they had one of those and they would connect it to the television that we had so I could see myself in the TV. And this is all that I needed to play for hours because I wanted to be on TV. I knew I wanted to be dancing and singing and acting. And I used to watch Madonna's music videos and learn all the moves. And when I was 3 years old, I said, Mom, I want to be Madonna's assistant. That's what I said. Which in my mind, I thought that that meant that I would be next to her, you know, doing everything she was doing. Like I wanted to be her best friend, essentially. And I just knew that I was here to do something different. I knew when I was a child, I was very spiritual. My parents come from a non-spiritual background, right? The Soviet Union, you were not allowed to have any religious affiliation. So you had to worship the state and that was it. And so that's what they, you know, they didn't raise me with any particular spiritual beliefs, but I was very spiritual right away when I was a child. I believed in reincarnation. I believed that I was here to like do something really big for the world. You know, as a 7-year old, I was like, I'm here to change the world. Like, I don't know exactly what that's going to look like, but I know that that's what I want to do. Um, and I always knew I wanted to be on stage speaking or performing to large groups of people. And that could be singing, it could be dancing, it could be acting, it could be speaking, giving a speech. I used to write like poems and speeches. So, in a way, yeah, from an early age, I always knew that I was here to do something unique. And I also saw that the world was not set up for people like me to do something unique. And in my house, there was a lot of conflict and stress because my parents were trying to survive. They were just in a survival state. You know, I don't blame them. I actually love them so much and I respect so much what they were able to give me despite the stress of those early years. But you know, you can imagine like learning a new language, finding jobs, like finding the money to live in America. It was hard. It's harder now, but it was hard then too. And I didn't get a lot of attention in a way when I was growing up. So I was often feeling like I was fighting against all of my conditioning to keep my dream alive, you know, and not listen to what people told me about that's not realistic and, you know, oh, that only happens to a few people. I really believed in my talent, like when I was younger. And then in my middle school years, in my teenage years, that's where things got harder. And I doubted myself, and I fell into, because I was a ballroom dancer, I was a professional ballroom dancer as a child. Um, and my teachers were not very informed about mental health and how to raise healthy children. So we were in a very competitive environment with a lot of judgment and self-judgment. And so I think I started dieting and, you know, trying to control what I looked like when I was around 8 years old. Like I remember thinking I'm fat when I was 8 years old and comparing myself to other people and starting to control, like, you know, a lot of controlling narratives that I inherited around how I'm supposed to look and be, and am I going to be good enough? So I had a lot of doubts that I wasn't pretty enough to be a star, or I wasn't skinny enough, or I wasn't, you know, I wasn't um talented enough. I needed a lot of external validation because I wasn't being validated in my home. You know, I really looked for validation in friends, in coaches, in teachers. And that was a very damaging pattern. Something that I still work on today is validating myself from the inside and giving myself the attention that I crave from other people. And the more that I do that, the more that I heal myself and the more that I'm able to go after my dreams with clarity. But yeah, I had a lot of challenges in my early childhood, and I had a lot of feeling like I was weird, you know, like I didn't fit in. I could see that. I just looked at around and I was like, everyone else seems to be fine with this society and with the way that things are and the school, that the way the school is and the beliefs that they're teaching us. And I just felt like a rebellious person who didn't really fit in and didn't really belong, and it was very lonely for many years on my way to pursuing my dreams. I would say I only really found my community and found people who really support me in my mid to late 20s and in the last few years of my life.
Yeah, I actually were sharing about that, and I really felt you so deeply because I had always the sensation when I was younger also to not fit in somehow, because I was always thinking and feeling more, you know, that there was something off about what you know there was around me, all those expectation, all those pressure, you know, somehow to be in a certain way that they were just unhealthy. They were not bringing nowhere good. But luckily, it's the way it is most of the time when we grow up in schools and as you were sharing.
Yeah,
And
I didn't see a lot of examples of people like me who were doing things differently, especially women, and especially women from the former Soviet Union. Because also, when you watch television in the US, anytime there was a character who was from Belarus or from the Soviet Union, she was a prostitute, she was a spy, or she was both of those things, or she was a mail order bride or something, you know. And I was like, where are any examples of like
even
Russian or Eastern
yeah,
European women being
that,
successful and
that
being in business and being, you know, on the cover of the magazine, you know, rather than like all the way in the back, you know. So
that's
I
a
didn't see that.
stereotype that they were actually putting on the screen. That's well,
Yeah.
yeah. And yes, so I can go with the next one if you feel
Yeah.
that. Thank you. Could you share a little bit about your projects? Actually, you share a bit at the beginning about that. I mean, you can feel it. If you feel that you were sharing already about it, we can go to the other one because this question was about sharing about your projects, and that if you feel that you have realized some of your dreams in your life.
Yes, definitely. I definitely feel like I feel in the last 3 years, I really moved towards believing in and pursuing my dreams. So it might sound to you like I always was on this path, but there was a long period of time when I wanted to make it as an actor in New York that I took a lot of jobs that I didn't want to do. And I was spending a lot of time working for other people. Like I would come help this person build their dream, and I would support this company to be better, right? But I wasn't really going after my dreams until 2020. And when I first got involved in the movement that we were talking about, that's the first time that I thought, oh, like I could pursue my own dream, and I went after founding Inheritance Project. So Inheritance Project is the main focus of my time right now. And what I do want to share with everyone is for many years, we were only working with companies, and now we're opening up our work to anyone. So it's very exciting for me because one of my dreams is for anybody, no matter who they are, where they are in the world, that they could go on this journey of personal transformation and say, I'm ready to unpack my inheritance and change my beliefs about conflict and become a leader and lead myself and lead other people and be the change that I want to see in the world. And so we have a new program that's starting next year that I want to share with
That's
everyone
really exciting.
called Bridge. It's called Bridge Builders, and it's for people who want to be bridge builders, right? Like the world is in crisis. We have many wars happening. We have great amounts of inequity and oppression and challenges that if we want to build a better world, we need to have hard conversations with people, right? We need to feel comfortable and confident speaking our truth and finding common ground with people who we think are on the total opposite side from us. Like if we keep becoming more and more polar, we're never going to come together to build the world that we want to build. So how do we build the bridges, right? Like how do we connect across difference? How do we repattern our nervous system so that we can have hard conversations with people? That's the focus of this course. So it's next year from March to May, 7 weeks. And right now we're in the early bird price. So for less than $500, you can take a 7 week leadership training that will teach you all the tools that you need to have hard conversations. And I'll be helping lead that course next year. So that's one thing I want to share because Inheritance Project, I think that the project has the power to change the world. It's even outside of me, just the way that the curriculum, the way that we take you through the experience, everyone works on their own real life problem. So they come in like, I have a problem with my partner or my mother or my boss, and they work on it in the 7 weeks. How to change the relationship, how to look at the stories that we tell each other and ourselves about each other in conflict, right? And I think that these are the tools that have the power to change the world. So that's one project. And the other is DJing and being an ecstatic dance facilitator and DJing in as many places as I can. And I had this dream of being a DJ from the first time that I was in a club. I like looked over at the dude in the DJ booth, and it's always men, it was always men. And I was like, where are the women? Like I have amazing music taste and I love dance and I love making people dance and the DJ has so much power. And so I did a program called PhDJ and I did it in the last year. I trained myself with my mentor Tasha Blank. And if anyone is listening now or later and you're like, I want to DJ, this is the best program in my opinion to learn how to DJ. It's called PhDJ. So if you look it up, you will see it. And I graduated and now I'm starting my own events in New York. So my event Catalyst is what it's called. It brings together breath work and movement and ecstatic dance and singing all into one event. And I will be hopefully doing another one in December in New York. And then I really want to do this at festivals and do this at different places around the world. I really think that when we bring all of these things together, we have the most transformative experience that we can. So
Katya, no
that's the other.
way. We have to make you come here to play in Europe because
Yes, bring me to
or
Europe.
I need to come to hear you in New York because
Bring
now
me
I want to
home.
hear you playing.
I love it.
I want to
I'm
have that
European.
pleasure.
I'm a European in America, so bring me bring me back. Yeah.
And yes. And yeah, which challenges you encounter on your life journey? You were sharing a little bit already about them actually when you were younger, and how these challenges impact your growth. Uh, you maybe
Yeah.
share here. You can say me if you want to speak a little bit more, or if you feel that you were already sharing them.
No, I think this is a great question, and the one thing I want to share is, and maybe this will resonate for other people. I, I've recently connected the dots that my biggest challenges in my life have been in relationship. So it could be with my partner, it could be with my co-founders, right? Or with the people that I struggled with friends for a long time, partially because in high school I was so different, and I think people were intimidated by me, or they would project an idea of who I was onto me. This still happens to me all the time. People are like, "Oh, I thought you were like this, but you're actually like this." And I would feel left out a lot, and I also felt very misunderstood. So the challenge for me was how do I find connection and understanding with people? And the biggest challenge I faced was actually um in being accountable for the mistakes that I make. And this is a deep thing because I grew up in a household with my dad where I wasn't allowed to make mistakes. My father was a post-Soviet tank commander. He ran the house like the army. And if you breathed the wrong way, or you put the glass down the wrong way, or you did something the wrong way, it was like 4 hours of being screamed at and emotionally abused in my house. So it was very unsafe. It was not a safe environment. Like, you think about what you need to grow, you need to be safe enough to fail, right? Like, you need to be safe enough that you can make a mistake and you're not going to be punished or abandoned or, like abused because you made a mistake. I learned in my nervous system that if I made a mistake and I admit that I made it, I was bracing myself for abandonment, abuse, right? All the things that I expected would come from that. So I was really afraid of, like, anytime someone would bring something up to me that they didn't like, or that maybe I did something that upset them, right? I would get very defensive, and I would try to fight and make it not my fault, and protect myself. Like, I had a lot of protection mechanisms that helped me survive when I was a child. But when you are an adult, those things don't help you anymore, right? So if you can't be accountable for a mistake you made, how can you repair a friendship or build trust with people? So I was and it was felt outside my control. It's like my body would go into this program, right? Like this PTSD response to anyone who I felt misunderstood me. Oh my God, the long messages I would write if I thought somebody just didn't understand me, and I would explain myself and over explain myself and justify and try to find a million ways to make myself good, right? Instead of very simply saying, "You know what? You're right. Like, I was late and I'm sorry and I will do better next time." And then learning that I won't be abandoned, that actually being accountable helps people trust me more and helps people see who I really am, and like I'm not in that environment anymore. So I had to overcome this very big inherited trauma of fear of making mistakes, fear of failure, and also the other parts of that are, the inherited um, patterns with my self-image and embracing my body and allowing myself to be seen, because I was so self-conscious and I really was so critical of myself when I was growing up. Like, nothing was ever good enough for me. It's like it was never good enough for my dad, and so it was never good enough for me, right? Like, when you bring that inside of yourself. And I want to say now my dad and I are on a really big healing journey, and we have been healing these patterns from my childhood. So I also want to give people hope that it is possible to heal these wounds in relationship with the person who created them. It takes a lot of practice and intention and skills, and I have been building up the confidence and the ability to be uncomfortable and safe in my body while I'm uncomfortable. That's what I've been working on for years, through yoga, through breath practice, through cold immersion, through nervous system work. Like, I had to do the work to actually be able to heal this now. But I'm seeing that as I heal this, I become more powerful and like more able to actually um to go after my dreams because I can notice my self-criticism, or I can notice I now can, there's space between what's happening emotionally and me observing it and actually giving myself enough time and space and compassion, like parenting myself, learning how to parent myself in the moments where I go into my emotional flashback of my childhood, right? So it's a lot of, it's a complex answer, but this is, I would say that's the number one thing I have struggled with in my life is feeling like my nervous system would just hijack me and I would be totally in a spiral. I call it the PTSD spiral, like spiraling out of control into all of these catastrophic thoughts of like, oh my God, they're gonna abandon me, they hate me, they'll never be my friend again, I'm a horrible person, I'm not, this is what would happen inside of me instead of me being able to see it for what it is, be accountable, be compassionate to myself, and make a plan to do better.
And
So
can I ask you something, Katya? What's the thing that you feel in this journey about this help you more? Like if you would say what was more helping you on that? Because maybe that.
Honestly, what started to help me was learning that about this. I used to think that there was something wrong with me,
Okay.
like that nobody else was dealing with this except me. Um, and then I learned absolutely not. I'm not alone. That there is a name for it called complex PTSD. So if you're someone who grew up in a very high pressure, scary environment, maybe in an abusive household, or maybe you were a prisoner of war or a refugee or anything that, it happens a lot consistently over time, it can create certain symptoms in the body, and I needed education, so learning about it helped. And then the tools that I've used, so breath work for sure, breath work is a huge one because our breath regulates our nervous system. So it's the nervous system tools that is what has helped me, and I'm still on the journey. Like I still mess it up all the time. It happened to me last night. I wanted touch and connection from my partner, and I didn't know how to ask. And so instead, I defaulted to my old patterns of like picking and nagging. And like, it's like by being disappointed, I actually make myself not get what I want even more. It's like, so I see how I'm the only one who stands in my way of my
Yeah.
own development and my
And
own dreams,
and
right?
then of course you are always on the journey. You never
Yeah.
stop,
So
and we are always working on that.
yeah. And now I know how to apologize and how to have compassion for myself and say, it's okay that this happened. I know why it happened. I see my pattern. There it is. And how am I going to be a little bit more aware next time? Like just a little more. So,
Thank
yeah.
you for sharing, Katya, because also this is a part of the journey that is really a vulnerable part. So I want just to thank you for sharing with us about that.
You're
And
welcome.
I'm sure that can help a lot of people because, as we were saying before, sometimes also to know, the points that they were not really easy in the journey of someone also give us the feeling, okay, I'm not alone struggling things.
Yeah.
and um, so um, in the present moment, how do you feel about your life and the progress you have made towards achieving your dream? Are there any particular accomplishment? Sorry, my English sometimes is really Italian. that that you are happy with and that you feel particularly fulfilled.
That's Thank you for asking. And also your English is amazing. I'm always so impressed by you, Ellie. Like you just jump in and you speak, and it's so great. And I'm so impressed. I'm like, you speak so many languages. I only speak two languages. So it's,
Yeah, that is funny, Katya, because I speak many, but then in all of them there is always, the Italian roots.
yeah,
Because my way of speaking is always like singing.
it's great. I love it. I love it. Oh my God, and I spent time in Italy this summer. That was one of my big accomplishments. Like I got to go to Italy and it felt so good. No, I would say the biggest accomplishments for me is that I started my own business and that we didn't have any external funding. We did it by ourselves and we made a beautiful, beautiful project and it still exists. So I'm really feel accomplished that 3 years in, we started our first public course. We're constantly working with different companies and clients, and we make a part-time living from the company that I created myself. So that is already a huge accomplishment for me. I think my other accomplishment is I was a co-star on a TV show called Dr. Death.
Wow,
Um,
I didn't know about
in
that. That's
yeah, so that happened. That was in the pandemic. That's a show that's on Peacock with Alec Baldwin and Christian Slater. It's about a murderer's doctor. I mean, it's very dark. I don't know if you want to watch it, but it's a true story about a serial killer who was a surgeon.
okay.
And I play a character on that show, and that was a big accomplishment for me, especially in the pandemic, to do something like that on film. Um, and I've made a lot of really beautiful experiences that I'm really proud of. I made an immersive show in 2013 in Brooklyn that was very elaborate, 25 room, like 12 rooms, 25 people, and everyone saw the show by themselves, like in a very immersive way, which is unique. There's never been another show ever that I've seen like that. So that
Actually,
was cool.
like
Yeah.
you're sharing with me, I'm like, whoa.
Yeah, it was a big production, it was like in very special and totally like again, this is the kind of dream or project where everyone's like, that's never going to make money. And I'm like, I know, that's not the point of making it. Like the point of making it is to make the thing that I want to make, right?
Yeah.
So for me, a lot of the time, like creating things, it's not motivated by money. It's motivated by the experience that I want to give people. So I think I'm proud of that. I'm proud of the experiences that people have had in my plays, events, programs. In my coaching, I'm a coach. I coach people on how to free themselves and be their freest, most expressive self. So I feel very accomplished when I see one of my students or my audience members have a transformation. If I can see that they came in one way and they're leaving changed, I've succeeded. So me, that's the biggest accomplishment is being able to create the conditions for somebody to have a breakthrough and see the world in a new way or believe in themselves or, learn something or experience something they've never experienced before.
Oh, yeah. Katya, actually, I feel that you are sharing a lot with the world, You are sharing a lot.
Thank you. Oh, I see. Thanks,
Yes,
Jules.
but yeah, there is someone, I don't know if it's so, but there is someone say best facilitator ever.
Oh,
That's so cute.
that's very sweet.
That's so
Thank you.
sweet. And so I have another question for you. Can you share any valuable insights or lesson that you've learned through your journey? That you feel that can be something that can be helpful also for others.
Yes, that at the end of the day, we enter this world alone and we leave it alone too, but you're never alone because you're with yourself. And the more time that you spend with yourself and getting to know yourself and believing in yourself and becoming your own best friend, your own biggest cheerleader, your own like supporter, right? Like whatever you're seeking from someone else is the very thing that you need the most from yourself. And that is the biggest lesson that I have learned time and time and time again. I want this, I want that. Am I giving it to myself? Because if I'm not giving it to myself, no one else is going to give it to me. So if I want to be a star or I want to be the star of a show, like, do I believe in myself that I already am that? Right? So that is a huge part of dream work, in my opinion. And also affirming myself, like really getting over the fact that if you want to go after your dreams, it's gonna feel cringy. It's gonna feel stupid sometimes. Like you're gonna feel like it like embarrassed by yourself. And that's part of it. It's part of getting over yourself, right? Like, yeah, someone's gonna judge you. Someone's gonna see it and be like, ew, or whatever. And that's fine because it's not for them, right? But there's gonna be somebody else that sees it and is inspired and wants to be a part of it. And that's who you're making it for. And the other, yeah, the third lesson is know who you're making things for. Like, who is it for, right? And it could just be for you. And if it's just for you, great. Then you know why you're making it and no one else's opinion matters, right? Or if you're making it for a group of people who are stuck in a certain way of being and you want to help them change that, like know who it's for, right? Because then you can be more specific and you can actually design for that person and you will be more successful that way. It doesn't work when you say it's for everyone, right? Like, yeah, some things are for everyone, but really, if it's for everyone, then it's for no one. So, being specific, believing in yourself, and knowing that anytime that you feel lack or you're like, oh, I wish I had more of X, like, how do you give that to yourself first and then trust that it will come from other people too?
I felt it came really line one of the three that you said because it was exactly what I needed to hear. About the third one, it came super alive because it came exactly in the right timing, in the right moment for me to hear.
Good.
So it was really
I'm glad.
perfect. And I have one last question, okay, Katya, for you, if you feel. Looking ahead, what are your aspiration and future dreams? And how do you envision yourself to continue to grow?
Mm. Well, one of my future dreams is to be a steward of land. I really want to move out of New York City. I want to have land that I can plant food in and grow my own food. I want to have an event space where I can do all my various events and invite a community. I want to build a really rich, supportive community where we come together and we exchange and we teach each other and we have a vibrant, thriving, consistent community. Um, and I also dream of making my story more public. So that's through speaking, it's through writing my screenplay, it's through like recording myself. I dream of starting a podcast, so hopefully that will happen in the next year. Then this
Have
is good
you,
practice.
have you ever thought about writing a book? Because I know that you love writing
Yes,
too. So
I also want to write a book. So it's about like those content creation, right? So writing the book, speaking the story, writing the screenplay, and also trusting that my work will support me enough that I can have the resources to buy the home of my dreams and create this community project. And I want to have kids at some point, so I need to start thinking about how to design my life for that as well.
you would love to have a space in the nature for your family.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's really powerful what you're saying because the dream that you're saying you remind to me myself because you know already that one of my dreams is having a land and having be surrounded by people that I love, having a space to organize things and feel like that home community feeling,
We will make it. We'll make it and we can visit each other.
That's a nice idea. So then instead of just one, many in different places, and then we travel from one to another.
Sounds like a plan.
Yes, thank you so much for sharing about your future dreams. And I don't know if you would like to say something more, if you feel that it was the perfect completion. Is it a word in English?
Completion.
Okay.
Completion.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, I feel complete. I'm just grateful to you again for asking me these questions and letting me reflect on what I've learned and my challenges and my strengths. And I'm excited to see how Dream Chasers continues and to also listen to other episodes. And I wonder, yeah, what's your biggest takeaway from our conversation?
From me and you? Okay. So, well, first of all, I want to say that the most powerful thing that came out for me, for myself, it was this moment at the end that you share your dream, the future one. Because for me, this was a reminder really strong of something that I have let apart for many months. Literally, you know me, we were more connected some years ago, and you know that it was really my big thing. Then luckily I put aside it a bit in this last year, and actually is also why I started with the idea of Dream Chasers, because I start to feel how is important for us to not put apart our dreams. Because no matter if 1,000 people tell you that it's hard, that is impossible, that is not easy, but if it is your dream, it's good to be there for it.